This podcast is a collaboration between Costard and Touchstone Productions and the Dads from the Crypt podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. I'm Alan Katz.
And I'm Gil Adler.
And today we've got a guest, Charlie Fleischer. Of course, everyone knows as the voice of Roger Rabbit. We had the pleasure of working with Charlie when we cast him on Demon Knight, the first Tales from the Crypt feature film. There were a bunch of actors who we kind of thought of as family because they had worked with our executive producers. And so, guys like Charlie, and I think we had tried to cast Charlie once or twice, but just hadn't been able to. So as we'll discuss in the interview, Charlie got to work with Bob Zemeckis, and of course, one of the the experiences that we talk about a great deal is working with Bob on Tales from the Crypt. Have you worked with Charlie since we did Demon Knight?
No, I haven't. No, I really haven't even spoken to him since all those years ago. He's a terrific actor.
Yeah,
very funny comic. And I really enjoyed his company when we were working on the movie together. And you'll see in this interview, I think you'll be a little surprised that his interests are quite varied and his accomplishments are quite pronounced.
Indeed, it's the man. He is a true Renaissance person.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I think you'll be in for a pleasant surprise with this one.
Oh gosh, what and such a talented man in so many ways. Never mind just Roger Rabbit and appearing in a host of movies and TV shows, including Demon Knight. Here's Charlie Fleischer.
I'm glad you guys got back together. It's a lot of people thought that Oasis would get back before you guys.
I had my money on the Beatles.
That's going to be a different parameter.
Yeah, one way or the other.
He had his money on the Beatles, and some of them are dead.
I'd say two.
Yeah.
You started in D.C.
Well, that's where I was born.
Yep.
Have we started officially yet, or we're just pre-show?
We have started. This is it.
This is it?
This is it, man. We just start talking, and whatever the fuck happens, happens.
Well, last time I saw you was at Todd Masters, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was a screening of... Oh, was it at Todd's studio, or was it at a screening of something?
This was in Pasadena, that I recall. It was.
Was it a Demon Knight screening? Yeah, it was a Demon Knight screening. Yeah, that's right. It was a Demon Knight screening.
He had a party.
Yeah, he had a
back
party.
In the corner.
That's right. Yeah. It was great to bump into you there. It really was.
Yeah, any kind of bump is good as long as it doesn't involve insurance.
Hey, for sure. Though we've worked together, I had no idea that you were science, and that you had this whole scientific side to you. I mean, I guess if we had more time on the set talking, maybe I'd have learned that. But
see, I remember a little of that. I remember having a conversation with you while we were shooting about that, and asking you a little bit more about when you say you're interested in science, what exactly does that mean? And I remember we started talking about that a little bit, and I just was sort of, wow, this guy's really an interesting guy to talk to. Forget the acting and forget the motion picture stuff and forget Tales from the Crypt. It was really exciting just talking to you about stuff.
Well, I'm part scientist and part artist. So the artist wakes up and says, wow, it's a beautiful day. And the scientist part goes, yes, but how does it work?
Now, when as I said, you started in D.C. and then your first, as you jumped out of the nest, your first goal was medical school.
Well, I thought I was going to do that before I really entered college, just as a child growing up. And there are friends of my parents that always addressed my birthday card to Dr. Charles Fleischer. It's kind of a typical Jewish boy. You should be a doctor. What are you going to do? Be an actor? What are you, crazy? So, but I always have had a love of science and scientists. And I have patented inventions. I have a paper on origin of gamma ray bursts on the Cornell
We
site.
will come to all of this because I really, hey, any fan of string theory is a friend of mine.
Well, I'm not sure about string theory. It's not provable, but
But still, it's a fascinating topic. It's the
anytime you get into, the quantum world or subatomic, it's interesting.
idea that something can come from nothing is enthralling. And in quantum mechanics, that can happen. So
Well, I
long as
guess I don't know if there is such a thing as nothing.
well, that's a whole conversation unto itself. The something versus nothing. One of the things that I find rather compelling about string theory is that in string theory there's no beginning and there's no end.
Well, once again, words can be tricky, but I think everything is cyclical, and the universe that we are in right now will one day no longer be. So,
And then
and just look at any aspect of life will parallel recapitulate others. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. I've always like that. So, our lives, we live and then we die, and the universe lives and dies, and then something else goes on again. It's
exactly
and
so.
we're part of it. That's the essential wonder for me, that we're part of it all, the unfolding of this magic.
What changed your direction from medical school? Then you headed to Chicago. You went to Goodman.
Right. Well, when I was, I always have been, doing shtick, and I love Jonathan Winters, Groucho. And then at Southampton College, I was in a couple of plays, and I did well in them, and I really loved doing it. And then I went and auditioned at Goodman. And I remember my parents told me, they did some research and said, only 3% of the people that are in the Actors Guild work. And I said, great, out of 100, I'll have two more people to talk to. So, yeah, I've always had many directions. If you were to picture a bicycle wheel, the center there is the hub. The spokes appear to radiate outward in different directions, but they all end up with the wheel. So it's kind of like me, like I go this way and that way. But you go to the wheel and you see it all come together.
Yeah. It happened for you fairly quickly in the 70s. You got some TV gigs.
Yeah, when I first came out, I started working. I think
Welcome Back, Cotter.
Cotter, yeah, sure. Cotter,
Yeah, you got. But you had God. You had was that a regular part? You were Carvelli.
Yeah,
You were Chuck on Laverne and Shirley.
that's correct as well.
God, then you even were on Laugh-In.
That was my first gig. That was before I even moved out here.
Huh.
I came out here from Chicago on a vacation just to explore. And then I saw Red Fox at the Comedy Store. And he said, look at a cigarette. Got him a cigarette. And then he said NBC. And I went to NBC just to look around. And I ran into Paul Keyes, I think, the producer of Laugh-In. And interestingly enough, Alan Katz, the other Alan Katz.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Alan Katz and Don Rio, and
Yeah.
he was a writer on Laugh-In,
Yeah.
and I had my comedy paraphernalia. I used to play these instruments that I had invented, the tutonophone and the tatunophone, and I was the discovery of the week. That was the name of the little bit.
I was friendly with Alan Katz as well. The Alan Katz you're referring to.
The other Alan Katz.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, he's a great writer, had great shirts, and his sister Phyllis Katz.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first got to town in 1985, I had a script called I forget what it was even called, but
What was it called?
It was called Down to Earth. Is what it was
Down
called.
to Earth.
It was called
Yeah,
Down
we
to
touched
Earth.
on it.
Nothing ever came of it. Nothing ever came of it. But people, people liked it, and so in 1985, I had a friend who'd become an agent at William Morris, and so she was my agent. She was sending me around, and among the people that I bumped into was Gil. But I went into a bunch of meetings where I would sit down and I'd start the meeting, and the other Alan Katz at that particular point had just put out a script as well, and his was called The Hunchback of UCLA.
Right. He was in it too.
When they ultimately made it, it was made as Big Man on Campus. But before that, when it was still out and about, and I would go into meetings and I'd sit down and go, "Hi, Alan Katz. Hi, nice to meet you, Alan." And they'd go, "We just got to tell you, we love your script, The Hunchback of UCLA." And the first couple of times, I was stupid, and I'd go, "Oh, that wasn't me."
Right. Take the
Then
gift.
there'd be this painful silence in the room as they realized they had the wrong Alan Katz. And yeah, and then finally I had this script called, and they'd go, "Oh yeah, we read that. Yeah, that was good too." And then I finally got wise after a couple of meetings, and they'd say, "Hey, we love The Hunchback of UCLA," and I'd go, "Why, thank you very much. And I think you'll love this idea that I'm about to pitch you just as much as that."
Sure, that works.
So I did get his residual checks from time to time. I did not bank them. I will say that.
Well, I would hope not.
One of the first things I did when I moved out here is I took a groundlings class. And my teacher,
Is that Gary Austin?
at the groundlings was Phyllis. My teacher was Phyllis Katz.
Oh, really? Oh, Gary Austin started that, I think. Yeah,
But-
right.
Yeah. And it was a great class. I enjoyed it immensely, but it was very funny that it just how it came full circle because of being confused with Alan Katz by day and then going and taking class with his sister by night. And she was a terrific teacher. I enjoyed that class immensely. Yes.
There are other Charles Fleischers. I've never met any of them, but I've always wondered what it'd be like to get 20, 30 people that all have your same name and just put them in a room and just what kind of dynamic would occur when that similarity is there. It's kind of random and slightly abstract, but hey, Charles Fleischer, like if all your friends had the same name as you,
It's
crazy.
really annoying. I can tell you. At the same time that this was happening with the other Alan Katz, there was a third Alan Katz who was trying to break into the business, and he wanted to have a whole club of us, where all the Alan Katzes would get together and
Yeah, well, that's we're hitting on that same kind of
yeah. And
How many names are available on the earth? Unless you're naming a kid A1 non-Trogla.
You're so lucky to be Charlie Fleischer.
I had no choice, but I do feel blessed and dressed, great and grateful, well read and ready. Gifted
Even
and
Gil
lit.
Adkins Gil Adler is better than Alan Katz.
Well, I had a similar problem though. I was producing a play in New York called El Grande de Coca-Cola.
Right.
Very successful play. And one day I get a phone call and I answer the phone in my house and the guy goes, "Is this Gil Adler?" And I go, "Yes." I said, "Who is this?" He said, "This is Gil Adler." I say, "Excuse me?" He goes, "My name is Gil Adler. I've been getting a lot of phone calls and I think they meant to call you. Do you have something to do with theater in New York? Do you have a play running?" I go, "Yeah." So he was an attorney on Wall Street. We met for coffee one day. He was probably about 10 or 15 years older than me, but it was really amazing. I mean, we chatted, we talked. He gave me all my information that he collected from people who were trying to reach me. And then every once in a while, like once a year, he and I would meet for a coffee, and then we lost track of each other. But it was getting a phone call like that saying, "Hi."
Yeah, it's always good. And just bringing it back to now, I think as far as backgrounds today, I think Gil wins for the best theatrical background. He's got a real nice kind of symmetry and perspective going. So I will commend you on that.
Well, I thank you. But if you look more carefully, you'll find it's not so it's not so the way, and
Well,
a little
it's not
bit more,
green screen, anyways.
a little bit more fucked up than normal.
That's even better.
You did the Carson show.
Yeah, I did it several times.
Yeah.
With Johnny, and then I did panel.
How many times did you appear before you got panel?
Oh, I think it's only on it twice. Is that right? Maybe. Yeah, twice. So, I did it the first time. And then I did stand up again, and then I went over and I did Mo Leads the second time. And I remember talking to Johnny about that in the commercial break because he was very interesting and fascinated by things scientific and astronomy.
Uh-huh. We will come back to the Moleys because that fascinates me too.
Good stuff, man. Can't get away from it. It's everything.
Uh, we we have a connection. We have a Zemeckis connection, which so there's always been kind of a feeling of family. Uh, you having done Roger Rabbit and Bob being one of our executive producers and a mentor. What was your your experience working with Bob like?
I love Bob Zemeckis. He's one of the greatest ever. I mean, Back to the Future, to
That's right. That's right.
geez, there's a lot of different things that I work with him. Polar Express.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, he's just a great guy and a great artist.
Yeah.
His enthusiasm, and there's like some sets you're on, and maybe a grip will have an idea and say, hey, well, what if you put that thing over there? I'm Frank Tolbert, and you're telling me how to direct. Get the fuck off my set. But if somebody says something to Zemeckis is a good idea, I go, he's just a beautiful human.
Yeah. We felt the same way. We worked with him on Tales from the Crypt for many years, and it was always a delight. Always great fun.
Yeah, great talent. And a great person. They don't always come into the same package. Some people are really talented, and they just their talent maybe overpowers their dignity.
What was the process like of creating because the voice really comes out of character. The thing about that makes Roger Rabbit really such a great character is that you can feel his soul.
Well, and so it's the essence of any performance art, or I would say any art. Your soul is somehow transmogrified into the medium. It could be a Kandinsky painting, or a piece by Mozart, or Beethoven's second movement.
Indeed,
it's that transfer of soul.
But it's easier said than done.
Well, as is the case, it's easier sold than sold.
Well, there you go.
True enough.
When for us, the Zemeckis experience can be summed up. After we had written the script for the Yellow episode, when he did his last episode, he asked us to write it for him. And we went up to his place outside of Santa Barbara. God, I hope it's still there. And we had lunch, and after lunch was done, we pushed the trays aside, and he said, guys, all I know is for the episode, I want to do a whole show, single camera from the point of view of a dead guy. And I want the dead guy to be played by Humphrey Bogart. All right, guys, how are we going to do this? And you were given an impossible assignment, except it's not impossible because Bob already has some ideas, and he's, you can throw something back at him that might not work entirely, but you can't throw back a bad idea. Yeah. And it's that, hey, for me, it was the thing that I learned from Phyllis Katz. The improv thing is yes and.
Humphrey Bogart, if you slow Humphrey Bogart down, it becomes more like Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
Becomes Jackie Mason. Jackie Mason can become Boris Karloff, and that can Humphrey Bogart. It's all similar.
It's like Boris Karloff is the touchstone for everybody.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but I like. And Peter Lorre sneaks into that too.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the days, huh? I tell you, kids today.
The voices. Well, yeah, because a lot of them still had to live in radio, and radio had to be one way that they were going to sell themselves. So your voice, hey, once talkies came, the ones who didn't have the vocal cords to go with the face.
Well, I still have a distinctive voice. Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, any of those guys. Almost any human has a fairly distinctive voice. And if they do something that's worthy, then you can pick out the high points and, make it into some sort of an impression or somehow.
But what makes for a great actor, or even a Churchill, is that they learn how to use that voice.
Right. Or you have guys like Gary Oldman,
tool.
Who, always does, different voices. He's a chameleon.
What was the first voice you ever did, looking back?
As a baby, I think it was just the umbilical screams of madness.
Oh, there you go. So it was Monk.
Embryonic.
So
The first voice on a professional level, would have to be uh, Roger Rabbit. I think maybe, yeah, I think it was Roger Rabbit. Although, thinking back, Wes Craven, I was in Nightmare on Elm Street, but I did a thing called Deadly Friend, which was about this rowboat, and it had to have a voice, and I think I even had a kind of effect before Roger occurred. So that could have been the first, but obviously Roger Rabbit was the most of all.
where did that particular voice come from?
I would say Midwest, about 4:30. Well, like any character that you portray,
Hmm.
you have what's written in the script, and that brings on something. But in addition to that, there was his physical characteristics. So had he been, very small, that voice wouldn't have worked, and really big. So
Mhm.
you have to make the voice sound like it would emanate from that kind of a chamber, and you search and you come up with something. I think,
So you start by trying to physicalize what the physical would sound like.
yeah, just sort of like do it. Let's see, John Huston was kind of, I had like shake little John Huston in it somewhere.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, it just all kind of came together somehow.
It was it's such a lovely LA noir story. Uh, it's
L.A. Laws, did you say?
a lovely LA noir
Oh,
story.
L.A. Noir.
LA
Okay,
noir.
that's good. So I know a girl named Ellie Noir, and
LA noir.
it's like, boy, her stories weren't that lovely, but she was good looking. Hey, Ellie Noir
Uh,
and Ellie Noir.
the science paper that that you wrote. When did you first start thinking about
Gamma Ray
the
Burst.
the Molides?
Oh, Molids is way before Gamma Ray Burst. Molids
Yeah,
occurred around my 27th birthday.
yeah. That it goes way back in your
Yeah,
thinking.
that's because my mother had given me a calculator as a present, and I was playing around on that, and then I started seeing these patterns, and then that just went on and on and on
What
until
what what pattern did you see that sparked this?
one divided by three, that divided by three, then that divided by three, and it was 0.027027 because three is the third power. Uh,
Uh-huh.
037. So one divided by 27 is 0.037, and vice versa. And now it's, I have, 30 years or more of research on it. And basically what Molides does, it allows you to see that any prime number will generate a system of numbers, which is the prime minus one,
Mhm.
that go together into pairs that add to the prime number. So, for instance, in Molides, it's 37 is the number. So 1 and 36 is 37, 2 and 35, 3 and 34. So there's 18 pairs of numbers that add to 37. That's true for any prime number. So Molides is directly related to prime numbers, which is intrinsic in a lot of mathematical understanding. The
Mhm.
gamma ray burst, which sort of began with, I was just Googling around looking for different palette ideas to use for watercolor, different spectrums that you can use to do watercolor painting. Like there's like, a Renaissance palette that's more kind of amber tones. And I came across this one image of a gamma ray burst and the spectral effects that it caused. And it just like struck me. I just started being fascinated. What are these gamma ray bursts? The explosions that are the largest display of energy in the universe, and
Mhm. Mhm.
they don't really know what they are. And just to me, it just seemed like it just struck me. It hit me. It resonated
Yeah. Literally, figuratively, and otherwise.
metaphorically,
Yeah,
embolically,
and that too, man.
synthophorodiotically, and
What's
like a rodeo.
what does this say to you? This what's at the
Which
heart of it all?
oh, the gamma ray burst or the heart? Well, the heart of
I mean,
all of it is
this. All right, so the gamma ray burst, yes. So there's energy flying around. There's light. But all right, you have discerned a pattern that other people hadn't, but you saw a fascinating pattern, and the way that you've broken down the all the different colors, and the way that the way that they break down into shapes. There's something.
well, yeah, the current theory is that they're random. And the essence of my paper was that they're not random. And my hypothesis was that it represents some kind of a communication. It's a hypothesis. I can't prove it at this point, but I mean, it's conceivable. It could be something that's unknown that's causing this. You know, some space worm farts on a distant galaxy, and that causes something to happen. But for me, it makes sense that it is some kind of a communication because if you were a highly advanced organism, you'd want to talk about it. You know, it's all to impress the girls, basically.
Isn't that always the way? Some laws are universal, apparently.
Yeah, that's the way it works. You know, like for a guy, you know, it's like or impress the guy, impress someone that you want to love you, whether it be man, woman, antibiotic, whatever. But you know, you demonstrate that. If you're a bowerbird, you build a nest or something. If you're a kite bird, you steal pieces of white plastic and put it in your nest. If you're a scientist, you may, honey, I think I did it. Oh, Felix, take out the trash, you bastard.
You think you're so special.
So, yeah, that's the essence of that. And the underlying essence, I think, of all of it and all of science is to find something that is not yet established, something that's there but not known. For instance, golden ratio, which is a mathematical proportion. Right. I think that's probably the greatest aspect of science that's known but not fully realized.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that the way that so many things in the universe have the golden ratio proportion, the galaxies, the logarithmic spiral. The shape of an object determines the behavior of things in it. For instance, the shape of a tuba determines the sound that's emanating. Sure. So the shape of our universe determines behavior of things within it. So
and that's the universe, the shape of it being like the way that it's assumed with it's from the Big Bang emanating outward like that. I mean, and also part of it.
There's one scientist named Luminet. He's a French astrophysicist who found that there were indications that the universe had a shape that would be kind of like a dodecahedron. So most scientists think the universe is flat, which seems like, I guess, but it makes sense to me that that it could have a shape. And if it was shaped like a dodecahedron, then that may explain why there's the proliferation of golden ratio everywhere. I mean, your fingers, the vertebrae, it's a magical number. Not that pi isn't. I love pi too, just for the reference. You gotta love pi. And just the fact that they go on their irrational numbers, which sounds irrational, but they just keep going. That to me is like, well, there's so many clues left behind that indicate that we're involved in something that is not fully known. And it's our job to figure out what you can, put it on the table so the next generation that comes along can look on the table and go, oh, let's try one of these. Oh, look at that. And then, what Newton, I think, said, standing on the shoulders of giants.
Indeed. If the universe could reveal just one of its secrets, which one would you want to know?
Well, if it's a secret, I probably shouldn't say.
Geez,
I would know.
Only because we haven't unlocked it yet.
I'd like to know about the beginning of it, before this one began. the whole Big Bang thing. And if it parallels other things, maybe it's possible that that two universes got together and boom, and made this one. Most life comes about by combining two life forms to create a new one. Uh, that's a hypothesis. Who knows what will happen when this one ends? Where do black holes go?
You
I'm pretty convinced that that this universe is finite, but there are an infinite number of finite universes,
mhm, mhm,
more mind-boggling than
mhm.
just one infinite universe. Because infinity, for my money, deals with quantity. Like, pi goes on infinitely. But when you get to size, I don't think things are infinite in size. I think there's restrictions based on laws of physics.
Mhm,
But you
mhm.
can always get a number and just go, okay, add one to that. Right? That's it. Got to be met. Nope, add one more. That's pretty sobering.
Do you imagine there is an end of time?
Uh, well, in what capacity? Like your personal time?
Well, we all, unfortunately, our time on the planet here in whatever this is finite.
Yeah, all of us. Well, if there's
It
an end, there'll be a beginning, because the beginning of the end is the end of the beginning.
That's what I'm rooting for.
It really doesn't even matter because, if you have good seats, just enjoy the show. And if you
Uh,
don't, an intermission, move down and take the ones that were vacant.
how long have you been painting?
I've been expressing myself visually pretty much my whole life. In college, I remember when they were having a lecture or something and taking notes and drawing on my notebook. And when it came time for the midterm exam, I could look at my notes and, oh, the mouse wearing the space helmet jumping over the car. They were talking about ribosomes there. But when it came time to finals, I said, what the fuck, a mouse and a hat? I don't know what that is.
Uh,
Uh, so I always loved that. I've always been inspired by people like Salvador Dali
hmm.
or MC Escher or Gilles Brouvel or anybody.
Have you ever tried to express these ideas of infinity in your art?
Yeah, I've done some pieces that speak to that concept. Little perspective does that.
I hope you don't mind. I'd love to put a couple of just link to it, just a couple of your pieces up.
No, I wouldn't mind at all. I think it's a
I
great
got to
idea.
tell you, man, I did not know that Charlie was an artist. I am blown away by his stuff. It is phenomenal. It is, and it's varied. You have a bunch of different of styles.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that's Magritte. There's touches of Man Ray here and there. There's
I
Escher.
like different mediums. I like digital. I like using pen and ink. I like mixed media, watercolor. Anything as long it goes back to storytelling. It's
There's one that
what
I
you guys
mentioned.
do.
Yeah,
Storytelling.
there's one I mentioned called the rhythmic shimmer of glimmer waves that I think is just I I find myself going back to it constantly. There's the light in the background that kind of
Yeah, I love that.
it silhouettes
And
the two women walking through that light. It's fantastic. It's
I tried to also incorporate titles that are poetic unto themselves.
that was
Some
my
of
next
them
that's my next
apply
question.
directly to the picture,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
the Museum of Self-Reflection.
That
Others
that
have
one I
no
totally get.
correlation.
The rhythmic shimmer of glimmer waves, and we will put that one up so that if you're at our website, you can see it. It's a great piece. Definitely worth $100 for a print. My God, what are you giving them away, man?
Well, I thought of that, but then I decided, for printing costs, I'll cover myself.
I'm also fascinated that there's like Monroe Boat. She is surrounded by the colors, by
I
the
see. Yeah,
by the circle of colors.
Monroe boat. Yeah, I also have one with uh,
Zappa.
Zappa,
Yeah,
yeah,
Zappa also,
and Picasso as well.
and Picasso
Picasso,
also surrounded by the colors. Is it just a coincidence that your color wheel from the Moldies and these portraits?
well, you know, colors are just part of the electromagnetic spectrum that we see visible light. Um, and it's just a way of combining ink drawing with something that's, you know, colorful and three-dimensional. And just you know, you get ideas where they come from. And I think that's what drives any person that creates, whether it's visual or audio or just push it.
Another piece that I love, and I'd love to know where the damn title came from, is Jade Raccoons Frighten Cotton Mice. It is a landscape, really half and half sky and flat like a desert, gray but reflective like it's wet. And this
Is there a red chair in there?
there's a chair in the middle of it.
Yeah, the red chair.
Yeah.
Um,
Jade Raccoons
is
Frighten
it this
Cotton.
one?
Yeah, Jade. Yeah. Jade Raccoons Frighten Cotton Mice. Thank you.
Yeah, Jim McClure. Well, you can see right back there. I have a red chair. See right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, after I did the Museum of Self Reflection, which is a museum, and in the museum there are paintings, and the paintings in the paintings have paintings in the paintings.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
That's
that
so
took
cool.
over
Oh, I
3 years.
love that.
So after that, I was looking for something that wouldn't take 3 years. And Salvador Dali already had a melting clock. So I thought about, why? What about a chair? Charlie, how about you take a chair, eh? And you put it in the middle of nowhere? A chair, huh? Is anyone sitting in the chair? No, just an empty chair. What color? A green. I tried green, but it blends. We see more shades of green than any other color. Make it a red chair; it'll stand out more. Okay. So I have a whole series of the red chair series of just one red chair in the middle of nowhere. And
What?
some
Okay,
people,
so a print costs $100. What does the actual hanging the artwork itself cost these days?
hanging? You mean
Yeah.
having it framed?
Well, no, I mean, but there's an original this is coming from, isn't there?
Some of them have analog originals. Others of them were created in the digital realm.
Gotcha. So it is entirely digital, and so there is no singular analog.
Well, for some of them, yeah. Like you know, the ink ones you can pretty see, and there's some
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay.
and
So,
there's a way of categorizing I have like old school, new school, etc.
mhm.
And the old school stuff is definitely you know, you can see that it's analog, and some of the new school stuff is all generated digitally. But any of those digital
Huh.
works I could transfer to canvas and have it be exist in that space.
Sure,
So
sure, sure, sure,
you
sure.
know, like
The
which came
rhythmic
first.
shimmer of glimmer waves, that's actual, or is that digital?
That's a combination.
Huh. I am so fascinated. I'm
The
so
hybrid.
fascinated. I can't tell you. And I,
I don't mind that. A
hey,
fascinating person is always fascinating.
if
Not as much as a rhythmic person is rhythminating.
I got to tell you something, Charlie. If Gil and I can sell this show we're literally about to go out with, not only am I going to buy a bunch of these prints, we're even going to hire you, man.
If you can sell the show, let's go back a step.
Oh, come on, come on, come on.
Positive
Take everything with a
attitude.
grain of salt.
That is when Gil and I sell this show.
Yeah.
If we find someone that we want to sell to, maybe not even want it. We
But
got six offers. I don't
but
want to sell it.
but first, I'm going to buy a couple of these prints. That's much more important to me than anything. Never mind. I'm enthralled with
I'm
them.
happy to provide people's walls with coverings.
Mm.
But most of the art that I've sold has been after I do a show, because there's you know, doing my show, doing comedy, and that creates a bond with people. And then once
Sure.
they've established that, then the art, you know, supports that connection.
Mm.
If you just you know, looking around, oh, that was nice. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other artists that are more accomplished in their statements, but my work is it's a combination of all my different efforts.
Hey, I'm just one more guy walking into a gallery, and I'm
No, it's better than me. I'm a guy walking into a wall.
there. You go. Well, that's
Walked into that one.
that's afterwards. Uh, you also do music.
Yeah. Actually, earlier, when I said the beginning of the end is the end of the beginning, that's from a song that I wrote, which is probably on Spotify or something. Yeah, I love music. Anything that has touched my soul,
Uh,
whether it be art, music, like that experience that I got, when I first heard Jimi Hendrix or when I first saw Salvador Dali, that was so exciting to me. I wanted to be able to I want to do that for somebody else. I want to take that and, push my soul dream in their direction and see if it catches on and makes them do something.
who are you listening to right now? That really excites you.
Oh, gee. I mean, I listen to a lot of Hans Zimmer. Uh,
Huh. Huh.
but that's when I'm writing, I like to listen to a lot of his stuff. I was listening to Smashing Pumpkins all day long, listening to Adore, which goes
Hmm.
back to 1998. But I really like that album.
You
Yeah.
said you while writing you listen to music while writing, and the one thing that I also want to touch upon is you've just finished a collection of short stories.
Well, it's not. If it was finished, it would be out. So it's not out yet, but it's close to
Close.
that
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, it's
But
called Out of My Mind.
and this is, yes, you've been writing your whole life, but this is how many stories are in the collection?
This is 10.
How long has it taken you
Tales with
to
Thunderbolt Twists. And I think of all the things that I've done, this is the most me. That thing, whatever I am, this is the purest form of that.
why do you say that?
Because it's the truth, brother. Because it's writing is so personal, and it combines so many different valiant efforts. Just getting an idea for a story, and then constructing the story, and then that's like a blueprint, and then the actual building of it. Each piece of lumber is a sentence, and then the nails, and just that sentence is that sentence not good. There are people don't talk like that, and then just the writing and the rewriting. But then once you do actually lock something in, then that's really empowering. And then you keep building on that, and then it's I think it's a magical situation to be
Is
able
it
to.
is it ever really done though?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it? Oh my God, you are. I wish I had. I wish I had that button. I wish I had that button.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I think it is. I mean, there have been times with my artwork where I just kept going, especially when I'm just doing something in a sketchbook, and I get to the point where it's like, wow, I think I messed this one up. That's why I liked moving into a digital realm, because I could do something and save it, and then I could just keep messing around, but I still had that one over there. And out of the messing around stuff, maybe I get a seed of what will become another new one. But I think with stories, you get your beginning, middle, and end, and that all ties together, and then
Well, but what you just touched on was really interesting, because really it's the form that, all right, so whatever the creative form, if you are creating in the visual form, that's working digitally versus working with actual material. Do you find there's a difference in the kind of things you create when working one medium versus the other? Do you find that the medium partially dictates what will come out of you?
to an extent, you have to work within the parameters of the medium you choose.
Mm-hmm.
But it does essentially go back to storytelling. I mean, some people might say digital art, you didn't do that, the computer did it. Or when people started using brushes and paints and tubes, cavemen go, oh, that's not art. Art is hand and whoa, print.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter. Pencil, it doesn't matter what you use as long as you get it out. It tells a story if it communicates something, if it is capable of touching somebody else's soul, then it's a win. But that's why I go to different mediums, because it will allow another current to flow into the bucket.
Some stories require one form versus another.
Yeah, I think so. But as essentially it's the story. But yeah, when I'm working on my sketchbook, it's I usually work in increments. I'll like do a little bit and then go to the next page and then work a little on that. It depends, and there's some that are all planned out because it comes from an older sketchbook, and some that I'm just, looking to find something.
So most of your life now is taken up with art.
It's always been that way. Some kind of art, yeah.
But is there one is there one art form that's getting more of your attention these days?
Well, these days, I'm, finishing up this writing, but I love all these things, But the thing about acting or doing stand up, that requires a venue, a producer, a script. It requires other people saying, yeah. So if that is not making itself available in a way that suits your parameters, then, you can just sit down and write something or sit down and draw something.
It's good to be a self-starter.
Yeah, it doesn't, no one else can mess with you. Because no, we don't like it. We're not making this movie. It's okay. It's going to be a book. All right. Hey, take a fork and a leak, Shanky.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, that we get to do this in this format. Podcasting is a kind, well, it's radio, frankly, but it's an exquisite kind of storytelling, because really you can put it together such interesting stories so quickly. For instance, what we pull together here, and you never know as you start the ball rolling, when you get two people talking, what stories will happen. You get three people talking.
Joe Rogan started doing this, right? And he's now, probably the biggest podcaster, if you still call it that. It's, TV, whatever you want to call it. It's, the field is open.
It's very democratic. You can, well, it's DIY. It's entirely DIY, and getting an audience. Okay, that's where the real heavy lifting has to come in. But the first goal is always, as an artist, is to create honest content.
Or dishonest content, if that's what's selling.
Hey, so long as you're honest about it.
Exactly, okay. As long as you're content with the content. And you invent something that you won't resent. Then you present what you invent, and the content will pay the rent.
Exactly. Don't be acting like it's the exact opposite. That's what I meant to do.
I could tell you stimulated me, and I elated my stimuloid.
Thank you. And on that note, having stimulated your stimuloid, what remains undone for you, Charlie? What as you look at all the creative stuff that you've done,
I think that if I knew that, it wouldn't be undone. So, but I'm confident that there is a realm of materials that I have yet to bring into focus.
For instance, like when you say materials.
Well, materials are available constructs that can be purposed into something beautiful. Create beauty. Truth is beauty. Keats, beauty is truth. Just, make things that inspire people, touch people, leave work behind that will touch some kid who hasn't been born yet. The same way that, reading the work of great people, inspired me to do certain things or to take a jump in a certain direction, just pushing the whole ball forward. We're all part of this.
You are, it's funny, you have a character, Roger Rabbit, who will endure for the ages. Most
It,
likely, it's that kind of character. I mean,
it's a classic film. It still holds up.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Great story,
People will
great
be talking about
storytelling.
that a long, long time from now.
And
They will.
I was also Benny the Cab and two of the Weasels.
Uh, and how do you? Well, what does that feel like? Really, is the question. It's got to feel great having that. Never mind on your bio, but it's as
It's
part of your
great.
story,
It's
part of your
good, but
story.
it's once you've accomplished something, it's you've accomplished it and you're looking forward. But also, do you see the movie Zodiac, David Fincher?
Mm.
Sure,
That's, I think, my best on camera work.
sure, 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 sure.
And in that, besides playing that creepy character, I was also the voice of a mental patient that calls into the
This
TV
is
show that Melvin Belli is on.
as I sat here remembering the movie, you just creeped me out.
That was my job,
You were very good. You were very good.
Mr.
Uh,
Grayson. I do all the posters.
yeah, it's funny. I, I hope there is work of that kind in your future. There
I
should be.
wouldn't mind. Jake Gyllenhaal, I knew when he was a little kid. He went to school with my kids.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing him in a play. I think it was Grease, but it was about Grease, not the 50s
Not the
movie.
musical.
And I said, "Wow, this kid's really talented."
Huh.
And his mother is a writer. She wrote the movie Running on Empty. His father
Oh,
is a
right.
director. Of course, his sister is an actress. Really talented family. Nice guy, Jake Gyllenhaal. You know what I'm saying? Like he needs me to talk about him. Like, oh boy, thank God, Charlie mentioned me. Maybe I got a shot now.
Hey, one of the things is when Gil and I go about promoting our podcast, and it's an everyday. You have to do it every goddamn day. And what you have to remind yourself is that you know what Coca-Cola is, and Gil knows what Coke is, and I know what Coca-Cola is. We all know what it is. We all know where it is and where to find it and when to drink it. And yet the Coca-Cola company still feels compelled to advertise what it is and where to find it every damned day. You have to. You
I don't
have
agree.
to. You've got to promote yourself.
Aren't there some companies that don't advertise at all?
Trader Joe's is kind of minimalist. They do a little bit of advertising. Yeah, there are a couple of companies that, there's one, it'll come to me, yeah, that are somewhat famous for never, ever having done it.
Do you know the classic Coke story where, it only used to be in soda fountains, right? And some guy came along and said, maybe if you put it into a bottle, sell the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't had that beverage or any kind of soda pop of, I try and maintain a healthy perspective on freshness and, a lack of chemicals, things that weren't here 300 years ago. The greed, because a lot of the food companies, they were tobacco companies, and they just put all the stuff into the food, and it's just greed.
If we could cure the greed, if we could cull the greed gene out of the human genome, oh, what a fantastic creature we might become.
Well, that diversity keeps it going. That's the way nature seems to work. There's always like a balance to maintain that. If it gets all over here, even if it's all good, that what's going to check that before the good becomes the bad. So there seems to always be a balance.
I got one last question for you, Charlie. This has been, thank you so much for doing this with us. My last question is, are you hopeful for the future?
Unquestioned, I'm hopeful for the past. That's a hopeful I am. That's another kind of hope. Hopeful for the future, sure, it's yet to be. But when you're hopeful for the past, that indicates you might know something.
I worry about people who are hopeful for the past because they're so nostalgic for it.
Well, hopeful and nostalgia are different issues, I suspect. Nostalgia is kind of almost leading towards a morose reminiscence. However, hopeful implies that you're aware of other timelines. of other ways that things can move forward or backwards.
I've always heard great things about the future.
Well, it usually comes from the past.
It certainly's got to flow from somewhere in the stream of the time space continuum.
Yeah, well, the future doesn't ever really exist. It's always now. Okay, here's a question for you to wrap things up for you.
There you go.
Okay, we're always in the now, right? So that means that this database that is the past is continually getting bigger because everything that's happening is flowing into that. When I started this statement, that's on the past now. So the hypothetical thing we call the future, as the past is getting bigger, what's happening to the future? That's my question to you. There's no way to prove it. What do you suspect?
It's infinite.
Hmm?
The future is infinite, and we
But
end up bottling it, and we end up
infinite,
containing it.
but the past is getting bigger.
It's a big
So,
container. The
What's
container has to
happening
get
to
bigger.
the future? I'll give you three choices. It's staying the same, it's getting smaller, or it's getting bigger.
The future, are you referring to?
Yeah, as the past is continuously getting bigger, what's happening to the future? In your humble estimation.
It's a fascinating question.
Deserves a fascinating answer.
It's the same. It's always the
Same as what? Okay, I'll give you
as what it always was. It is
I'll give
unchanged
you
from
my
what it was.
perspective. As the past is getting bigger, so is the future, which implies that the potentialities of things in the future are growing at the same rate the past is, which explains maybe like why you think like, you know what, how come I never thought of this before? Because the possibility of that idea had not congrued in this database that is the growing future. So as this past gets bigger, the future does as well because it balances out. So that the more time flows, the greater the possibilities to grab from the future and bring them into now, so that it can become the past.
Is there a paper in this?
That's not even worth the paper. It's
damn! Damn!
It's a gum wrap.
There goes that sideline.
If you get to the point where it's empirical formulas, you could, but who would read it? Because the point would be like by the time they read it, it would be the past, and the future would already have a better paper ready.
I think it would depend how funny we could make it.
That's always an issue.
There you go, and it's so subjective.
And funny can change too. I mean, look at jokes that people were telling 20 years ago, and now they're like getting booed for. So the dynamic is always shifting.
Indeed, it is forever shifting.
Yeah, that's why sometimes you just have to shift yourself.
What else can you do?
But don't be too shifty.
Yeah, that's the risk.
You'll get shafted.
Excessive shiftiness. Again, we thank you so much, Charlie, for joining us in this little misadventure of ours.
Did you say misadventure?
I said misadventure of ours. Yes, this little misadventure of ours.
I think more as a myth adventure.
Myth adventure.
Like
yes,
mythology.
That too.
I like mythology. I think we can create our own mythology.
Ooh, hey, that's the job. Because if you don't create it, someone's going to create it for you. You don't want that.
Or an AI can create it for you.
And man,
I heard a joke. It's and this is not my joke, but AI they can make an incredible painting, but only a real artist can go to Berlin and overdose.
And that's why we'll always be a step ahead.
And that's not my joke. Just want to make that clear.
But it's a good one.
It's substantial in a way that it has resonance.
It definitely resonates.
I'm doing my resonance at the theater across the street. No, it's resonance. No, it's resonance. If it rings a bell. Oh, tintilation. Never mind. Well, anyway, my hat's off to you.
Hey, Mr. Poe.
And thank you both for including me in this presentation. It was definitely more of a tale than it was a crypt.
Then mission accomplished.
Indeed, no reference to
that guy.
Either of them.
Not one of those bastards.
Go back to the show.
Don't get us started.
Yeah, don't
We'll
do
see
that.
you. We'll see you next time, everybody. The How Not to Make a Movie podcast is executive produced by me, Alan Katz, by Gil Adler, and by Jason Stein. Our artwork was done by the amazing Jodie Webster, and